pull it, it'll drop out.
I got it right here.
Hi!
The cider is good. So I think they have free hot chocolate, coffee, and apple cider.
Janice trying to get out of the video.
Board.
Person on the Great Lakes, of course, that's because I get seasick and move.
Everyone will dine personal completion place and proceed to the lower deck and exit the boat using the access doors on the board.
Just friends. Hey, Mommy. I'm gonna go get the folks upstairs. Hey, just friends. Hey, everybody. Hello. Hi, Raymond. Oh, you did come. I didn't see you earlier.
The mommy does.
They came to greet us. They're saying bon voyage.
About 1/3 of the way down the river, which is 63 miles long. That large pile of boulders far right, where it spreads from the river channel near 1900, and the boundary line between the United States and Canada runs just inside the pile of boulders. That's the boundary line. What is? Coming up off our bow, and we'll be going down our right side, is the Algoma Harvester. She is on her way to Bay Coco. She was built in 2014. She is 740 feet long, 78 feet wide. The captain will be sounding a salute, which is 1 long and 2 short blasts on the and everybody give them a wave. Now we might get hit with a little bit of the top wash here, so just please hold on to a bench, your friends, or if need be, make.
So that's the Canadian border.
Native people fished in the rapids for whitefish. 20 young French soldier named Etienne Brulé came here in 1622. He found that this area was a bustling center of indigenous life on the upper Great Lakes. Then, in 1668, Father Marquette came, hoping to convert the natives to Christianity. For trading posts were established, the U.S. Army built Fort Grady here in 1823, and iron ore and copper were discovered in Upper Michigan in the 1840s. Eventually, the lumbering wave from the lower peninsula swept north, and the settlement grew into the 2 international sister cities you see today. An hydroelectric power plant, and I'll be talking more about the power plant later on in the tour. To fight fires in 1924 and flown into the rugged bush country north of Soo, Ontario by former World War I pilots. The museum was started in 1987 and is in the Ontario Air Service 1948 hangar. This interesting museum contains many restored aircraft and a complete history of the Canadian Forest Fire Service. Also inside the museum are flight simulators and a 3D theater that lets you experience the exciting world of the Canadian bushplane pilots and firefighters.
So I guess that's Canada. Hydroelectricity plant.
right is the Clare Park. At this location, a royal vessel was moored when Queen Elizabeth II of England visited North America to help open the St. Lawrence Seaway in 1959. The glass paneled building is the Canadian Civic Center, and it houses the government offices for City of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Near these buildings is where one of the two ferry lines used to cross between Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. On the American side, the ferry departed from the current U.S. Coast Guard base. You can get a view of the St. Mary's Rapids. Before the Soo Locks were built, the rapids stretched across the waterway from shore to shore. Lock and Power Canal construction on the American side narrowed the rapids by about half their original width, and the water flow over the rapids is also decreased, as much of the water is diverted to the various hydroelectric power plants in the area. The white canopy and high red brick building on the shoreline to our right make up the Roberta Bondar Place Pavilion. Dr. Roberta Bondar is Canada's first female space shuttle astronaut and is from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The white canopy serves as an outdoor gathering place, and the building houses the offices of the Government of Ontario. The indigenous settlement beside the rapids was called Pawading. The native people resided here because of the abundant supply of whitefish that can be taken in all seasons of the year. And the name Pawading is said to be placed by the rapids of Ojibwe. When the French came in the 1600s, they called this area the Soo, or the shallow waterfall or rapid. And in 1668, Father Marquette established the St. Mary Mission next to the rapids on the American side. After the building of the chapel and residence, the area became known as Sault Ste. Marie. And today, both cities in Michigan and Ontario are named Sault Ste. Marie. Right, just behind those yellow floats, is the Francis H. Clerc Generating Station. The Canadian hydroelectric plant opened in 1983 and can produce 52,000 kilowatts of electric power. The water turbines in the plant are among the largest in the world at 27 feet in diameter. The Canadian lock was built in 1895. And when it was constructed, it was the longest lock in the world and the first lock to use electrical power in its operation. The original Canadian lock was 900 feet long and 60 feet wide. But in July of 1987, a 200-foot section of the lock wall broke loose and shifted 4 inches. The lock was then closed for 11 years. And in 1997, the City of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario worked with the province of Ontario and the Canadian government to have the lock rebuilt. They built the new lock within the existing walls of the old historic lock. And on July 14th,
you won't see smokestacks like that putting out smoke on the American side.
It's now 228 feet long and 49 feet wide. The lock is operated by the City Parks Department and is used by tugboats, tour boats, and pleasure craft, including sailboats, canoes, kayaks, and jet skis. The Canadian lock process uses 1.5 million gallons of water, as opposed to the 10 million gallons in the MacArthur lock and the 22 million gallons in the Poe lock on the American side. The Canadian lock is open 7 days a week from mid-May to mid-October. We are now approaching the Canadian lock and we will be using our mooring lines to tie up to the lock wall and would like our passengers to remain seated. When it is safe to move around, please stay behind the yellow painted areas around the mooring lines on the left side of the upper deck while we're in the lock.
dark.
Sorry. Can I weasel through here?
I keep waiting on them to start, but they're not starting yet.
Am I in your way, dear? Am I?
No.
Okay.
If you look behind us, you can see that those gates are now closing.
Sorry if I'm in your way.
I'm trying my best. I didn't know you come up here. Y'all should have fun.
Now, the water on the other side of the gate ahead of us is about 3 feet from the top of those gates, 21 feet higher than the water level we're now on. And to raise and lower the water in the locks, large tunnels in each lock are used, and the tunnels extend beyond the gates at both ends. There are valves at each end of the tunnels. To raise us from the Lake Huron level to the Lake Superior level, the valves beyond the gates ahead of us will be open, and the higher water ahead of us will flow through the tunnels down into the lock walls and up through large openings in the floor of lock. The empty valves inside the tunnels behind us are now closed, so the Lake Superior water entering the lock under the gates ahead of us cannot escape under the gates behind us.
Oh, yeah.
This lock can be filled with water in 10 to 12 minutes. Now the flow of water into the lock, it's all by gravity, no pumps are needed. And in a few minutes, you'll be able to look over the top of these lock walls. When the water inside the lock reaches the level of the water on the other side of the gates ahead of us, the gates will be opened and we'll continue our tour. Directly in front of us, you can see that cement sill. Now, all locks have a sill, but the gate sill, but since this lock is so shallow,
Oh, okay.
there will be a total of 1.5 million gallons of water being let into this lock to raise us to the Lake Superior level.
Those buildings are pretty.
They are, yes.
That is a beautiful. So how many feet are we from Canada right now?
Now that we're a little bit higher, that building to our right is the administration building for the lock, and it was built of sandstone and limestone. The building's windows, lock, and railing were restored about 10 years ago. The next structure on the right is an observation tower, and the last building over on our right, all the way behind us, is the powerhouse. This was the first electrically operated lock in the world, and the powerhouse contains the equipment that produced electricity for the canal operations. Now, this equipment is still largely intact, and the building also holds the original dewatering pumps, which are still used to completely empty the lock when the lock floor, tunnels, equipment, and so on are being worked on. Visitors can sometimes tour the building and see that gigantic machinery, which is over 100 years old. The Canadian lock was designated as a National Historic Site of Canada in 1987, largely because of the powerhouse and its equipment. The lock is also recognized for its significant history and unique emergency swing dam, which we'll be seeing later on in the tour, and that's that orange structure straight ahead. Now, this entire area is a park area. Canal Park is on our right, and the land to our left contains Atacamac Trail, a hiking trail that takes you through St. Mary's Island and Whitefish Island to the rushing waters of the St. Mary's Rapids. This area was the longtime home of the native people of the region, and in 1997, the deed to Whitefish Island was restored back to the Batchewana First Nation. Since the Canadian lock is only used by pleasure paths, there is less security on this side of the river, and people get to the hiking trails by walking over the gates of the lock when they're closed.
We're not in trouble or anything. We're not hiding.
Everyone from Tennessee.
There were two different groups.
Since the gates are open, we will sound one short blast of the whistle as a signal to pass off our last mooring line. We do ask those passengers standing around the mooring lines that next to the lock wall to step back behind the yellow line. And any passengers on the lower deck, please step back from any open windows until we're underway.
So you have to
try, but
This canal are some historic pictures of the historic lock and of one of the accidents that did occur here at the canal. Also recessed into the wall on either side of the boat are the red wooden gates of the original Canadian lock. They're no longer used, but they'll give you an idea of how much larger the original lock was compared to the smaller lock that we were just in. Canadian lock. Nobody lives there today, but it is used for receptions, meetings, and wedding photos. The orange painted steel structure we are approaching to our right is the original emergency swing dam for this canal. It's the only remaining dam of its kind in the world, and in an emergency, the dam is swung across the canal and the gates underneath lowered to the bottom to restrict the flow of water. This dam was used once on June 9, 1909, when an accident occurred at the Canadian lock, and here's what happened. The Canadian passenger boat Assiniboia was tied up on the upper Lake Superior level inside the Canadian lock. The American freighter Crescent City was entering the lock behind her, and another American freighter, the Perry G. Walker, was approaching the pier leading up to the Canadian lock from the Lake Huron level. The Perry G. Walker was supposed to land at the pier and wait her turn to lock up bound through the lock. But there was a mix-up in communications between the captain of the Walker and the engine room. When the captain called for full steam astern, the chief engineer put the ship in full steam ahead, crashing through the lower gates. When the lower gates were broken open, there was a violent rush of water, and the Assiniboia and Crescent City ricocheted out of that lock at an estimated speed of 40 miles per hour. Now, there was no loss of life, but the ships were pretty broken up after the incident. The swing bridge on our right was built in 1899, and it is one of the movable sections of the Canadian National Railroad Bridge. It connects to the lift bridge and the Basque bridges on the American side. About a mile to our left, you'll be able to see those later on in the tour. The bridge swings across the canal and connects with the tracks on the left to allow freight trains to cross, and it is still used about twice a day.
That's what I heard.
As our other tour boat, the Holiday, comes up here, once we get close enough, the captain will be sounding a salute to the other tour boat, and that is, again, one long and two short blasts on the whistle, so I'll let you know as soon as he's going to be about to do that. Okay, here comes that salute, so please hold your ears.
Algoma steel. That's an Algoma steel.
We are now approaching the still works of Algoma Steel Incorporated, and this plant was established over 100 years ago by Francis Blair. It's Canada's second largest steel plant and employs approximately 3,000 people. Algoma produces almost 3 million tons of steel each year, and about 80% of the steel produced here is hot rolled and cold rolled steel used by the appliance and automotive industries. The large coils of steel are produced in the state-of-the-art production complex, where molten iron is converted into rolled steel coils in minutes. Algoma also produces a wide variety of plate and structural steel, and some of the heat-treated steel plate is used by the U.S. military. Algoma makes more than 700 different specifications of steel, and the manufacture of steel begins with 3 main ingredients. These materials are coal, limestone, and taconite iron pellets. Now, it takes 2.5 tons of raw material to make 1 ton of finished steel, and the manufacture of steel requires various steps. First, coal is baked at extremely high temperatures in huge ovens for nearly a day to drive out all the gases and tar. The coal tar is collected for other uses. The purified coal called coke is used as fuel in the blast furnace, and depending on the type of steel desired, various amounts of coke, taconite, and limestone are added to the blast furnace. Preheated air is forced through a mixture of natural gas and coking gas to cause the coke to burn inside the blast furnace. Hence, any excess gas is burned off since it cannot be safely stored. The intense heat inside the blast furnace converts the iron ore to molten iron. Limestone takes the impurities out of the iron and coke to make slag. This slag is skimmed off the top of the blast furnace, And the heavier molten iron sinks to the bottom of the furnace and is run into huge ladles. The ladles of molten iron are then transported to the steel making furnaces, and at the steel making furnaces, the molten iron is reheated and various alloys are added. The final step is the forming of the steel into various shapes on the rolling mills. The coils of steel that you see on the dock are rolls of finished steel, and the coils weigh from 40,000 to 60,000 pounds each. Now, due to highway regulations, a semi-tractor trailer could take one or two of these coils in a single load. So the most economical way to transport these coils is by barge. A tug and barge can transport 300 to 350 of these coils in a single trip. And most of the rolled steel product is delivered to ports in Detroit, Michigan, Windsor, Ontario, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Transporting freight by water is cheap. The president of the Lake Carrier Association has said that for the cost of a fast food meal, you could ship a ton of freight on the Great Lakes. Now, if you care for refreshments from our snack bar, the snack bar is now open, and it's in the bow or the very front portion of the lower deck. The snack bar serves hot coffee, hot tea, hot chocolate, a variety of chips and candy bars, chocolate chip cookies, ice cold Pepsi products, and bottled water. Purple colored material coming up on our right that the seagulls are loving to sit on is taconite iron ore pellets. And taconite is produced near the mine sites in Michigan's Upper Peninsula and Minnesota. Now, all the high-grade iron ore has long been mined out, so today the low-grade iron ore is ground to a fine dust, and the material containing iron is separated from the waste material and processed into iron pellets. The processed taconite pellets are over 65% pure iron. Directly in front of us is the Manitoulin. Built originally as a saltwater tanker in 1991, the Manitoulin was rebuilt for Great Lakes service in 2015. This self-unloading bow section was built over in China, while her stern section was built in Croatia. She is 662 feet long, 77 feet wide, and she has been offloading some of that taconite iron ore pellets. The light colored material in front of us to the left, is crushed limestone. And crushed limestone is brought to the steel plant by self-unloading freighters from Port Calcite, Michigan, near Rogers City. The gray building just behind them is used to dry and crush the limestone before using it in steel making, because drying the stone prevents it from exploding in the blast furnace. And just to the left of that crushed limestone, you can get a little bit of peek of some black material over there. And that is coal brought in by ships from the mines of West Virginia. And there is approximately 1 million tons of coal stockpiled in that area. Along this 4,000-foot-long dock area, about 5 million tons of freight is loaded and unloaded by Great Lakes and ocean vessels. This includes incoming cargoes of coal, coke, taconite, and limestone, and outgoing cargoes of coal tars and finished steel.
The sun's come out. It's nice and warm now.
Well, we was on the shadow side of it, hell, we on the sun side.
I was all over this thing and I didn't find a warm spot. Have you been to the Soo Locks before?
First time.
Well, I'm glad you were able to do it with us.
Yeah, me too. My video stopped working. I don't know what's going on with my phone. It's right.
I'm going to try to post it on YouTube.
On what?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Now that noise you just heard is them opening up
I'll
the
get with
blast
you
furnace
later.
lid to allow material to be added in.
Howdy, folks. You're fine. Sorry, honey.
Times, and it is completely made up of slag or waste material from the Algoma steel plant. Slag is a waste material from blast furnaces that's comprised of limestone, and it's been dumped in this area for over 100 years. Slag is all that gray colored material to the right of us, and today slag can be used as landfill, road foundation material, sandblasting grit, aggregate concrete, and some roofing materials. The landmass to our left is comprised of red sandstone, treads from the river bottom. Throughout this entire region and through the St. Mary's Rapids is a natural solid ridge of red sandstone. In fact, this ridge of red sandstone starts in New York State and it ends in Minnesota. It comes up to the surface here in Sault Ste. Marie. This sandstone is what makes the 21-foot difference between Lake Superior and Lake Huron, and it serves as a dam holding back Lake Superior. Now, anytime a rock was built, this sandstone had to be broken up and removed. And in the past, dynamite was used, but now it's chiseled into chunks for removal. A corps of engineers uses derrick barges to remove the material from the river bottom, and some of this material has been deposited onto Engineers Island, the land area on the left. This island has grown taller over the past years, and the red sandstone also proved to be an excellent building material. It's been used in building many of the homes, churches, schools, and government buildings in the area. Now ahead of us is the International Highway Bridge, which opened to traffic in 1962, replacing the ferry service that operated below the locks. This bridge is the only international crossing between Port Huron, Michigan and Sarnia, Ontario, 350 miles to the south, and the Ontario-Minnesota border, 580 miles to the west. It took 2 years to build, and it's almost 3 miles long. Clearance from the bottom of the bridge to the surface of the water is about 137 feet. Now, just in front of the highway bridge are sections of the Canadian National Railway Bridge. The lift bridge, built in 1960, crosses the canal above the first and second locks, and it replaced an older swing bridge. The bascule, or jackknife bridge, built in 1919, crosses the canal above the decommissioned third and fourth locks. And it is the second largest bridge of this type in the world at 336 feet in length. Now, each of the two sections of the bridge are so evenly balanced with large counterweights of concrete that a 40 horsepower electric motor is all that's needed to raise and lower the sections. A 10 horsepower motor locks the two sections together before the trains cross over. The third movable section of the railroad bridge was that swing bridge built in 1899 that crosses the canal leading down to the Canadian lock. Now, all bridges are currently used at least twice a day. Look at the lift bridge, you can see that it has a left and a right leg. At the bottom of the left leg, there are two brick buildings, and these house the mechanics to operate the bridges. The left is for the bascule, the right's for the lift. Now, the workers for the bridges, they live on the mainland, so in order for them to get to work, they go up an open air, one-person elevator in the right leg, and they go all the way up to that top structure. Hopefully they clip in, and they walk along the very top arch of that lift bridge. They then get into another open air, one-person elevator in the left side to get down into their buildings. Built to bypass the St. Mary's Rapids, which were formed by a 21-foot difference in land elevation between Lake Superior and Lake Huron.
Okay, you're fine.
Ships have been locking through at the Soo to avoid the rapids since 1855. The locks are numbered 1 and 2 from right to left. American lock number 1 opened in 1943 during World War II, and it's named for General Douglas MacArthur. It's 800 feet long, 80 feet wide, and 31 feet deep at the Lake Huron level, and it takes 10 million gallons of water to raise or lower a vessel in this lock. Lock number 2, which opened in 1969, is the biggest of the locks, and it's named for General Orlando M. Poe of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. That lock is 1,200 feet long, 110 feet wide, and 32 feet deep at the Lake Huron level. It takes 22 million gallons of water to raise or lower a vessel. Now, the Poe is the only lock large enough for the 1,000-foot-long super freighters, and there are 13,000-footers on the Upper Great Lakes, all American flag. The 1,000-footers can't go any further east than Lake Erie because they're too wide to get through the Welland Canal between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Even getting through the Soo Locks is a tight squeeze. At 105 feet wide, those 1,000-footers have only 2.5 feet on each side of them in that lock. In fact, 80% of the American fleet must use the Poe,
I hope we
as the
go
ships
over
are
there and
too
look at
large
that
for the
ship.
MacArthur lock, and 90% of all the freight that passes through the Soo Locks must go through the Poe. And currently in the Poe right now is the Maria G. She is on her way to Thunder Bay. And she was built in 2007. She's 655 feet long, 77 feet wide.
Oh, sorry. Are you wanting to see it?
And we are now about to enter into the first American lock, or the MacArthur lock. And we will be using our mooring lines to tie up to the lock wall and would like our passengers to remain seated. When it is safe to move around, please stay behind the yellow painted areas around the mooring lines on the right.
Just kidding.
Building for the American locks. It was built in 1896. The chief lockmaster works in the building tower to dispatch vessels to the various locks. And from the tower, the lockmaster has an excellent view of the St. Mary's River. And all ships passing through the locks comes to report the amount of cargo and number of passengers on board. Our captain has filled out a form for the number of passengers on board to be reported. And then he's paid for that he has empty the locks.
Way to go, Teresa.
Here at the zoo. The main cargo carried down through the locks are taconite, low soft gold from Montana, wheat, and okra. The main cargoes coming up down through the locks are coal from West Virginia and limestone. And limestone is used in the manufacture of steel and processing sugar beets. Ocean vessels traveling down through the locks are usually loaded with cargoes of wheat and other grain products, but still transport the country all over the world. Was built back 50 years ago for raw materials, and 85% of the iron ore used to build ships came from that. Here's Soo Locks during the war. Until the year 1881, the U.S. federal government took over operation of the Soo Locks. And Colonel Orlando M. Poe supervised removal of the state lock and construction of the original hull. It was used from 1896 to 1961. The present second lock replaced this lock in 1969. It was also the third American lock is named the Davis. The fourth American lock is named the Sam. These locks are in good condition and are to be replaced with the new process lock. The Soo Locks are 4 car running to the conduit. The ships today carry 7,000 cargo and a single load. Now you can learn more about the Soo Locks inside the visitor center at the Soo Locks Park, located to our right, just behind that viewing station. boat help desk and center post an estimated arrival time of incoming ships to the Soo Locks.
I'm sorry, I keep getting in the way.
On the site
I'm about
of
to get out.
the $3.2 million improvement is in the process of being built and will bring an estimated 15,000 workers to the area. This project is expected to take anywhere between 7 to 10 years, and the new lock would mirror the dimensions of the boat. It is on track to be completed by 2030.
Was it okay that I videoed you doing that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Curious how they let that go up there. There's someone on the top that
We're getting lower.
Maggie! Hold still. Maggie, hold still. Stop.
Do this there. How's that?
Oh, my husband will love this one.
On level playing field and have our opening. And that takes you home well to be ready. When it is time, the captain will come short last on his morning to know to pass off the last morning line. It will be a little bit louder in here because of the headset.
I didn't see that on the other side. Oh, I guess we didn't need it for going on the high side.
are dispatched to Dredge, and you can see some of them at the top. The tugboat directly up front is the Turok, built in 1970. And that barge behind there is the Harvey, built in 1961. The concrete tower that you see inland to our right is the Tower of History. It's 210 feet high with 5 observation platforms near its top, reachable by elevator. And on a clear day, you can see 20 miles around from the top of that tower. Breaking tug to operate on the Great Lakes, and she can break ice up to 30 inches thick. Below her pilot house window are ribbons her crew earned for ice breaking and rescue efforts.
Wow. That's kind of cool.
Flip on the right is the museum ship Valley Camp, built in 1917. The Valley Camp is 550 feet long and 58 feet wide. The city of Sioux City acquired the ship for a museum during its 300th birthday celebration in 1968. And it is one of the largest maritime museums on the Great Lakes, with over 100 displays in her cargo hold, including 2 lifeboats from the Edmund Fitzgerald. The Edmund Fitzgerald and all her crew were lost in a storm on Lake Superior on November 10, 1975.
I'm gonna go see if I can get a picture of it from the back. Are you tired of seeing me, honey?
Completed in 1902 at a cost of $6 million. The plant is a quarter of a mile long, making it the longest power plant east of the Mississippi, and it's still in use today. There are 74 active turbines that use the power to close and resist.
You're fine.
The power now for this plant begins at the upper end of American Lock and winds through the city for 2¼ miles, making it high in the downtown business section of Houston. The water level drops 2 feet through the course of the power now, and then another 19 feet to the plant construction. The power plant was built with the electric of the Red Shell without the outside, and each stone was being cut and went back like that work. If you would use the air window, you can see that the reservoir is open. Now it is 9 to 12 water considered 21. In the lower section of this, you can see they don't sit on the 4th Avenue side, and the water level is 19 feet higher on the side.
Wonder if he's having any luck fishing.
Inside is water. See the far wall that you can see through the window?
Yeah.
Between us and them is actually probably a turbine. And it's got a big giant pool of water. When you go in there at night, you can actually see underwater electric bolts shooting through the water.
Oh, neat.
Kind of awe-inspiring and scary. It's actually
Public outreach area and outdoor educational park and office space for research. The Great Lakes Discovery Center inside the building is open for visitors. And anything else they might need. She handles over 6,000 items and can save the crew a lot of time. There's been a vessel going out to supply the ships here since 1905.
So this brings our boat tour of the Soo Locks to a close. It was an awesome adventure. Thanks for watching and hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.